families. There's, for example, bankruptcy reform will be completed. It is amazing the number of things that will be completed by this Congress that will not be noticed because the press is so often too involved in looking at other things. But I do think you ought to watch very carefully for something that's as significant as the housing reform and the bankruptcy.
And let me note that the public housing reform bill is completed, is on the VA HUD bill, and will go down and will be signed. So that will be a significant additional reform building on the welfare reform materials. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Senator Daschle this morning said that he's spoken with you about calling the Senate back to session after the election. And I'm wondering if that is correct, and Mr. Speaker, is that also true to the House?
I don't know of any plans of coming back in session after the election. We may want to keep open the option if there's a national emergency, or if the House should reach the point where they would act on impeachment, and the Senate would have to come in to receive it. But all of that is speculative. We don't know in the Senate exactly when the House will act, or when they would get to some conclusion. So you can't say that that would not happen, but right now there's no plan to come back for a lame duck session at all. I assume that the Judiciary Committee in the House could have hearings and go forward without the entire Congress being in session, but we'll work with the Speaker and the Democrats to think that through before we go out next week.
Mr. Speaker, on Mr. Army's other matters, the Democrats have rolled out their official, I guess what they're calling an expedited process for impeachment. Your reaction to what they're talking about?
I think that should all be handled next Monday and Tuesday in the Judiciary Committee. Chairman Henry Hyde will be handling that. As you know, he has responded to Mr. Gephardt's letter of September 22nd, which called for the Watergate process, said the Watergate process was a model of fairness. I think Chairman Hyde is offering precisely what Mr. Gephardt asked for in that letter, which is the rules that Peter Rodino offered, which is the democratic rules of 1974. So I think all of that, you should turn and look to talk to Mr. Hyde and see what happens next Monday and Tuesday. But I think that'll be handled in the Judiciary Committee. I have said, and Dick Armey and the whip have all agreed, this next week is a vote of conscience. We will not use the whip organization on the Republican side. This is something that each member should approach as an American, based on their oath to uphold the Constitution as their oath of office. And I would hope that's the way to be dealt with next week. So I hope it wouldn't be Democrats and Republicans, it would be Americans.
Mr. Speaker, you left open the possibility that you might pass an omnibus bill that did not last the full year, that could last until after the election.
No, not an omnibus bill. What I said is, we will pass whatever continuing resolution is necessary if we are still negotiating appropriations bills. And we will work with the President will have no excuse to close the government, because this Congress will work with him to have a clean continuing resolution, whether it has to be 1 week at a time, whether it could be longer than that. I mean, I hope we can get an omnibus bill done next week. I think that both Chairman Stevens and Chairman Livingston will tell you they believe it is doable. But even if the President is determined to fight on appropriations bills, even if he is seeking an excuse to do something radical and to close the government, which I think in this environment with the problems in Russia and Kosovo and Indonesia and Japan and Brazil would be very, very detrimental to American interest. Even if you want to do that, I'm just saying we are collectively united that we will pass continuing resolutions that are clean to keep the government open, and we'll be glad to negotiate with the President the length of time he'd be willing to sign at any one time. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Now on your screen, a live picture of the U.S. Capitol. We expect the House to come back at any time now. They're in recess, subject to the call of the chair. They came in briefly this morning. When they return, they're expected to work on the agricultural bill, one of the 13 annual spending bills. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Capitol, the Senate in session. They're working on the Internet Commerce and Taxes bill. You can see live coverage on C-SPAN, too. While we wait for lawmakers to return, we'll return to this morning's Washington Journal with Daniel Golden, NASA Administrator.
partisan, and that,
That's really weird.
most, the good, kind of
there are a
disinterested
lot of-
reporting was not getting done.
Right. Go ahead, Arianna.
There are a lot of very interesting characters here, Blumenthal, Linda Tripp, but let us not forget that the only person that really matters in terms of impeachment hearings is the president. And what is fascinating to me from what we've heard so far is that here is the president inventing these amazing tales. He's not just telling his staff, no, I didn't have sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky. He's actually willing to destroy Monica Lewinsky. If it was not for that dress and the stain on the dress, by now Monica Lewinsky might have been in a mental institution. You would have the president saying she's crazy. You would have had everybody saying that she was a stalker. You would have had people saying she's dangerous. This is what is devastating. The willingness of this man to actually destroy human lives around him. The willingness to believe that the ends, which in this case mean staying in power, justify any kind of means. That is so chilling that I can't tell you how upsetting it is.
Arianna, I think perhaps there's a little hyperbole, but you do have a very important point, and I think that's why a lot of people are concerned and are unhappy, like myself, with the president. I mean, there is a disloyalty about him and the people who are around him, that he is so willing to put his own needs above everyone else. And it's very troubling. I don't think it rises to the level of impeachable, but it sure is a big problem.
I also
No,
think...
but it definitely rises to the level of resignation. This man needs to do the honorable thing and stop dragging the nation through this. Resignation.com is the sign that the site that we started, and now with Ross Perot, whatever you may think of him, joining the move to get a grassroots effort to get the president to resign. It's the only solution.
Arianna,
he has his own agenda, though, don't you think, Arianna?
I'm sorry?
Ross Perot, don't you think he has his own agenda?
Do you think anyone in this doesn't?
You don't have-
there's
you
not
don't
a
have to-
single decent person in this whole
You don't have
story.
to approve of Ross Perot. You don't have to approve of me. You don't have to approve of anybody. What is the best thing for the nation? The best thing is for this to stop and for all of us to be able to move on to deal with the serious problems facing us.
Arianna, but let's have a reality check. This guy is never going to leave. In fact, and all the
That's what
Republicans ought to be
Richard Nixon
concerned. He may
thought.
not leave in 2000. I mean, the guy's there to stay. He has no job. He has no place to live. He has nowhere to go. This is it.
All right, guys, we got to
He's
break
not
it. Hang on, guys. Can you hold it all till we come out of a break? In the meantime, we have some sad news into our newsroom. Gene Autry, the man who we all knew through entertainment as the singing cowboy, died today at his home in Southern California. He was 91.
We just lost Roy Rogers.
Indeed. So we'll have more on the passing of Gene Autry when we come back. And of course, the other news out of Washington, more evidence released from Ken Starr's investigation of the president. We'll be back.